If you wanted to just create the digital version of the real life game, just a counterpart, and that's all it was, then what you would have created was a simulator. But this game is not a simulator. There's actually more to this game than simply being a digital counterpart. Hi there, welcome to Games Over Coffee Consulting. People give me their games, I give feedback on their game design. My name is Devon, and today we're talking about Jean-Ken Pawn by Studio Meow Meow Galactic. If you're unfamiliar with Jean-Ken Pawn, or Jean-Ken, whatever it's called, basically the Japanese counterpart to Paper, Rock, Scissors. And it's not the same game. It's kind of funny because I thought going into this that it was the same thing. So I've never played any kind of Jean-Ken before. I did have a game that was submitted to me a while back by Good Games called Jean-Ken Samurai. This game, Jean-Ken Pawn, the developer said he basically created a digital counterpart to the real life game. And I had never played the real life game before. If you don't know how to play Jean-Ken, you need to in order to play this game. It does not explain anything. And that's not what we're going to talk about today. This developer is very well aware that it doesn't really explain itself that much. So once I looked up the game and then played this game, then it made a lot of sense to me. You have your basic Paper, Rock, Scissors, which in here is called Gu, Ki, and Pa. You kind of count to three. You say, I'm going to butcher this Japanese, Saisho wa Gu, which means start with rock, and then Jean-Ken Pawn. Then you both throw your decision out, whether that's paper, rock, or scissors. If one of you wins that round, then you move on to the next step, which is, I tried to explain this while I was shooting and it didn't really work, so I'm going to try it again. First you do paper, rock, scissors. Then the winner must successfully make the loser look in a specific direction. So in real life, both players would say achi muite hoi, and on the word hoi, the winner points in one of four directions, left, right, up, or down. Simultaneously, the loser selects a direction to look. If the directions chosen by the winner and the loser match, then the winner of the previous round earns a point, and then you start over. So it's kind of complicated to think about, but once you get it down, then it kind of formulates a basic understanding, and you can play this game pretty simply as you go through it. And the game is actually quite fun. The game looks very low budget because of the art style. The art style is very like crayon, hand-drawn looking stuff. But everything in here, design-wise, is actually very good, and I was very impressed how able they were to get someone like me who has never played this game before to be able to not only play, but like basically almost beat the game. I didn't quite beat it. It's very, very difficult, and that's what I'm gonna talk about. And they have different types of things that pop out to accent the gameplay. So one of the things is that the whole thing is tempo based. So in real life, when you're saying like paper, rock, scissors, both of you are doing it at the same time, or Jean-Ken Pawn, you're both moving at the same time. So in a game, you can't move, right? So you have to basically treat it as if it's a tempo game. So you have to treat it kind of like a rhythm game. Saisho wa Gu, Jean-Ken Pawn. It has that kind of tempo to it, and you have to match the tempo. You throw out your sign, and then the way that they accent these moments, hands are going at the tempo. The words appear at the top of the screen. It creates kind of this rhythm game, which is really interesting. And as soon as you throw out your sign, that has a big star blast at the bottom that shows what sign you've committed to. And it also has a sound effect that happens. And all of this goes really fast. If you win or lose that first round, then the opponent, their face changes. If you win the first round, then they're mad and they have a frowny face. And then if they've won, then they have a happy face of some sort. It's very simple on the outside, but it's very complicated when you try to think about the strategies that are involved. If you wanted to just create the digital version of the real life game, just a counterpart, and that's all it was, then what you would have created was a simulator. Simulators have their functions and they're great, but this game is not a simulator. And the reason why I'm pointing that out is because there's actually more to this game than simply being a digital counterpart. This game is building a skill, and it's actually challenging the player in certain ways. And the reason why that's important is because of the challenge, how it scales when you're playing the game. So when you play the game for the first time, you kind of get used to the tempo and everything, but the way that it's designed is showing the player with the facial expression of the opponent, and with the star blast, and with the sound effects, and with the cheers and applause whenever you get something right. It's very much trying to drive the player toward success. They're obviously rewarding the player for putting in the work of trying to strategize against their opponent. And what's even cooler is that when you're doing the direction thing, whether you're pointing in the same direction or opposite direction, your opponent plays their direction before you. They do it just a little bit before sometimes, not all the time, and I think that's kind of weird. Most of the time, they'll start pointing in a direction, and what's nice about that is because they're not waiting till the last second like you are, you get time to respond to it. So it kind of softens the idea, and it makes this not complete luck when you're doing this whole thing. This game would be really, really boring and really dry if it was just pure luck, but it's not. And so that's what's really interesting about this. Obviously, this game is trying to drive the player towards success and grow a certain skill with the player. And I think what that skill is reading their opponent. And this game gets really difficult because the speed increases so much. This whole game kind of reminded me a little bit of WarioWare in the idea of separation, in the idea of micro games, and the idea of speeding up. So WarioWare, they have two different things that I want to talk about. They have these visual identifiers, and they also have speed changes. When I talk about visual identifiers, or what I call visual measurement, I'm talking about the type of visual cues that you give to the player to let them understand something. And I talked about visual measurement specifically with this video. This is a live video that I did, Lucent Bounds, which was a 3D precision platformer. Visual measurement in WarioWare has to do with the separation between what is a game and what isn't, or when you're changing games. And it's funny because you don't think about this kind of thing because it's really well done. When you are presented something in WarioWare, you have a home screen sort of. For example, this part with WarioWare, you have the speaker that's thumping. That's your home screen basically. And then it counts down to 3, 2, 1, and then it goes into a game. And then when it goes into a game, it has this very specific look. It has a frame around the whole thing. It has a little colored border. And then after you are finished with that, then it zooms out and it goes back out. It goes back to the home screen. So it makes the player visually identify what the game is, when it's starting and when it's stopping. And that's very, very important, especially for a game like WarioWare, where again, the speed is something that's increasing all the time. The reason why I bring this up is because Jean-Ken-Pon does have some of that. I really respect the things that it does have, but it doesn't go all the way. And I feel like I could do more. So one of the things that I felt was really, really difficult in this game was scaling up the speed a whole lot. I got the last person that I could get to was the Red Devil looking guy, where you needed to win 10 hands with him, which is kind of insane. You start at this speed, right? You start at, and then you end with speeds like do, like you have to go through all these decisions in your mind that fast, right? Split second decisions. You have to think about things like, am I throwing a sign or am I pointing in a direction? And when I'm pointing in a direction, am I pointing the same way or just a different way? Have I tied? And if I've tied, what sign can I throw next so that I don't tie? Those kind of things are the things that are running in your mind all the time, and you have to do it really, really, really fast. And that's really difficult, especially for someone, like I said, like me, or someone who's just beginning this game. And the thing that makes it a little less difficult, a little nicer, is, like I said in the beginning, this game's design seems to be oriented in a way to let the player know what's happening. So like I said, they have the star blast, they have the little tempo that comes up in different types of words. The opponent's face, changes depending on what kind of situation that you're in. So those things are good visual cues to let me know what I'm exactly doing at this moment. Am I trying to choose a direction, or am I trying to choose a sign, or am I trying to strategize in a different way? What I think needs to be done more is to basically amp those up a lot more. One of the things that I think needs to be amped up in the visual cue sense is the muite. The achi muite hoi part, the part where you're looking. In those portions, I never know visually whether I'm supposed to be pointing in the same direction or in a different direction. Another thing that I think this game could benefit from is a clearer separation between just each of the different stages, whether it's Saishowagu or Jean-Ken-Pon or Achimuite hoi or Aiko Desho. They all need to have their own, I think, distinct look. So like right now, there's just different red text that pops up, and they're all hand drawn, and that's fine. But it would be nice to have even just different colored text, or bigger text, or somehow just different text to let me know, again, a visual cue to let me know what part I'm in. And the reason why this matters is because when you're doing this really fast, you're doing some of the thinking for the player. You're kind of offloading the mental load from the player onto the game. And so the player can understand, what they have and what stage they're in by just looking at the game. And I think that's really important for a game such as this that is speed-based. You don't need to make the player internalize everything. Like I said before, I think this game's design is really, really good when it comes to trying to separate the different parts of the game to make the player aware of, where they are and what they should be doing. Anytime that you make a mistake in this game, there's a whistle that's blown to let you know that you've done something wrong and the other person gets a point for it. It still keeps going in the same tempo whenever you do it. So if you make a mistake, say like you press a direction but then press a different direction at the same time, then it looks like you're trying to cheat, and therefore you get blown a whistle on and you lose a point or they gain a point. But the game keeps going as if nothing had happened. So if you're continuously making mistakes like I did in my last gameplay, you can easily rack up the points really fast and then just lose the game. And then it's a long time to get back to that portion of the game. So those things I would have more of a separator. I like the idea that happens when you win or even when you lose a hand, the game pauses and lets you know, hey, you won or you lost. It would be nice during those moments when you make a mistake to have the game pause and say, hey, you made a mistake. Increasing the feedback and increasing those visual cues to let the player know exactly what's happening, when it's happening. Other than that, I think the game flow is pretty good, and I think the game works really well. And I haven't seen another game like this. I guess that's all I have to say. You have a short video for a short game. I'll say that much. So thank you so much, Studio Meow Meow Galactic. That's a great name. Thank you so much for submitting that game. If you are not this developer and you have a game and you want me to take a look at it, you can submit it. There's a link in the description, or you can go to this website, gamesover.coffee. We also have a Discord where people can play test your game if you'd like. We have some pretty awesome developers in there. I'm in there all the time, so if you want to come by, say sup, drink some coffee, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys later.